Thank you all for coming today. We are going to be talking about stewardship today. And I was asked to give a little bit of a devotional thought about stewardship. And so I sat down with the word at first. And I thought to myself, what would I define stewardship as? Before I looked up any devotions, before I looked up anything. And what I thought was, I would say it is how well I am managing my stuff. So my kids, or my marriage, or my friendships, or my volunteer roles. I'm sure you all can relate to that. Or bringing the right name tag to the meeting. If you'll notice, I have Dodgen's name tag or bringing your name tags to the meeting, which I forgot today. So I am so sorry. So I thought about that, and so I wrote that down. That would be my definition, how well I'm managing my stuff. When I looked up in the dictionary, not even a spiritual dictionary, but just a good old regular dictionary, the actual definition is to manage or look after another's property. And the difference really struck me in what I literally defined and lived out, probably in my understanding of stewardship, and what the actual definition is, and then how that applied to my understanding of stewarding in the regards to God. And our definition with Rise Up this month is way more appropriate than what my understanding was, and it's taking care of what God has given you. Psalm 24:1 says, "The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it." So the perspective is of his ownership. But not only is it all his, but he's very purposeful and intentional about where he places us, the circumstances he places us in, and the gifts and abilities and talents that he gives us in those circumstances. Psalm 139:16 says, "You saw me before I was born and scheduled each day of my life before I began to breathe. Every day was recorded in your book." So as I studied it and I thought about these two things, the emphasis on God's ownership and his intention was kind of a game changer in my shift and understanding of what stewardship means in my life. It sort of took the perspective off of me. And on the one hand, it was more sobering and real, because if I'm thinking about managing someone else's stuff, sometimes I take a different approach than if it's mine. So there's a sense of accountability. But because we're talking about God, there's also a sense of peace that came over me, because we're talking about the one who is all-loving and all-knowing. And so he's way wiser than I am, and he has my best intentions at heart. And so the things that he has, that he owns, that he has given me the privilege of stewarding, is all coming through the filter of his love and of his wisdom. And so I don't know if that perspective helps you today. I hope it does, like it does me. It's been something I've been thinking about. It doesn't mean that I'll do everything perfectly like the name tag, so I want you to feel grace in this today, but maybe it will just help you to bring a sense of peace and of purpose. So I just want to leave one last thought, and I actually do not know, I hate to admit that I don't know what the verse is, but I'm interested to see if it is the same one. But the one that sort of wrapped it all together for me was 1 Peter 4:10. "Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms." So what he gives to us is his grace, and it's his love towards us, and we just have the opportunity to join with him. So I hope that encourages you today, and I think I'm passing it over to you. Yes, sorry, it is the last verse is 1 Peter 4:10. Sorry, I messed that up.
Thank you, Lindsay. Okay, Lindsay and I had a couple announcements. During the hurricane, a crew of us went to the office and spent a couple hours cleaning it up. And so we've changed a few things where we would love it if, I know the office is a great meeting place where you can drop things off and get them out of your house and get them out of your garage or your dining room table if you're at my house. But we would just ask if you all could put it in the back room. There's a table that we put up there where you can just set whatever extra items you have from your meeting on there so that we can share. You can put extra copies and stuff there, but I think what's been happening is people are just coming in and dumping it, and then we're hosting meetings and stuff at the office, and office gets trashed pretty easily. So that's the first thing. If you could just go there, put them all the way in the back room by the dress-up closet. And then also, that's where all the t-shirts are if you need to grab extra t-shirts. But on the bottom right, you'll see an area where we just have some freebies. So if you need to grab a gift for the ASP worker, we have some mugs or cups or things like that, some magnets. That's yours for the taking. Feel free to go in there. We also have some of the Rise Up To Do notepads if you want to give it to a new volunteer or something like that. So feel free to go and use those items. Kelly Rivera is not here today and asked me to make an announcement. So t-shirts. There has been a massive t-shirt debacle, and I want to apologize and ask for your grace. One of our core values is grace, and so we need it. What has happened is I think each of the schools are grabbing maybe 3 or 4 extra t-shirts in each size, which is awesome, and we've always done in the past. But now that Rise Up is so big, if you add that up, that's 100 t-shirts that are missing. And so Kelly has reordered 3 times. She reordered right before she went out of town, so I know there's 100 mediums that are going to be arriving next week. But when she ordered those, we were not out of other sizes quite yet. So we will keep posting on the Facebook page, so please just be patient. And again, we apologize. It's awesome how many volunteers we have, so it's really a great problem. Lindsay has a couple, wants to show y'all some stuff on Dropbox that you guys can use, and her computer brain can explain it for those of us who don't get it quickly.
Hi guys, I'm going to talk from back here real quick. So I just wanted to show you a couple quick tidbits on things that might help you in your chapter meetings. So I don't know if any of y'all came in before we started the theme. And so this kind of hopefully will save you guys time that you don't have to go through and do the same thing. So what you would do is you would copy the whole website there, and you would plug it into either your phone or into your computer. And if anyone has Amazon Prime, which a lot of people do these days, or there's going to be somebody on your ministry team that probably has Amazon Prime, and you can play that off a phone or off the computer. So that's just some music to be playing like during Carnival or as students are arriving. So that's why we play it as you guys arrive.
Do you have to have internet connection to play that? There's
On
no
your
way to
phone,
download
you
it.
don't. If you play it from your phone, no.
Yeah, but do you have to have cell service?
Yes.
Yeah, we don't. Okay.
But if you want to go and look at this, so if you look at what songs,
Just like download the
you
song.
can download them. So like if you go to it while you're at home, you can see, oh look, and you might have some of them already. So you can pull a list there.
And there is a link on the leadership tab with that?
No, it's in the AV presentation.
Okay.
So if you go to the curriculum folder for this month under stewardship, there's an AV folder with a presentation that has all these slides in it.
Hey, Lindsay, do you have to just have regular Amazon Prime, or do you have to pay where you pay
Unlimited? No. Just Amazon Prime, if you pay the annual fee, you have access to Amazon Music.
Okay.
One quick question. We haven't done our meeting yet this Friday. Is there one for this month?
There is one, if you look in the PowerPoint, the slide has it on there.
Okay, so another thing that's come up is Kelly Rivera has found all of these AV games. So now that we're only doing one game up front, I know that timing can be a little bit tricky. Like at Timber Ridge, we had a little extra time than we had thought. So there are some incredible AV games that everyone can play along with just by standing there. It would be a great thing to be able to download and have on your computer in case you run out of time. So Lindsay is going to show us where those games are.
Yeah, so if you, I've kind of created, Kelly has a ton of them out there that you can go through yourself, but she's gone through and I've gone through and kind of picked the best ones that you might be able to add into your PowerPoint. But I'm going to show you just real quick how you would get there. So like normal, you would go to the Rise Up website and go down to the resource leadership login. And here you're going to then go to the curriculum link. And this is going to be this is where you're going to have like the shortcut of the best of these dynamic games. So you'll see here these extra games. You can't read the whole thing. Click on it. So there's game PowerPoints here. And these are some of the things that some of you might have seen at the 5th grade ambassador event. So we have like the charades game we played, the poser where you pose like a bodybuilder and a ninja, and they're just fun games. And what you would do is you would open this PowerPoint and take those slides and put it into your own AV if you know that you're going to do it at that meeting. But if you just want to have it on hand, you can go ahead and download it to your computer or to your AV person's computer and just have it kind of in your back pocket to use. You don't have to be all super smooth and have it in your presentation as long as you have a way to get to it. and play it if you have a lot of extra time in a meeting. So these are the games, and then you'll also see under the same folder, there's volunteer kid movies. And again, these are movies that Kelly has downloaded that she's already gone through and previewed and made sure there's nothing bad in them. So you don't have to worry about showing something and being like, oh my gosh, what am I showing?
This stuff would also be awesome if you meet with your fifth grade ambassadors separately. They would all be really good stuff to do and to show with that.
And so again, this is under the 17-18 curriculum folder. So everywhere you see those month folders, it's the very first folder there, extra games and volunteer movies. So that is that. And then the last thing I wanted to show you guys real quick is we're gonna kind of preview today a new music motion video from Casey Darnell from North Point. It's really exciting that he is a volunteer and helping us and allowing us to use his music, which is incredible. So I just wanted to show you again where you find that. Again, on the resource page, you would go down to audio-visual link. Comes up. You'll see here worship lyrics and motion videos. And so these are all of the videos that we've used in the past, but Casey Darnell's are kind of down at the bottom. So he's done 3 songs for us. And today we're going to preview one of them, Your Love is Like Wow, and we will continue to put these music videos into our PowerPoint presentation. But if you want to just add another or change it up, you're always free to change the song, and that's where you would get it from. And you would just insert it into the presentation.
But we do have to have rights to the songs, so we don't want you guys picking outside songs because we can get in trouble for that. So when you decide what songs you want to play, they need to be something, these are all ones that we have rights to. Okay, so a couple of other announcements. When you came in, you might have seen there's a couple sweatshirts out there. They're sweatshirts kids sweatshirts that we had ordered from last year. We're not reordering. So if you would like them, we wanted to give you all first opportunity to buy them. There's also a couple Bible study books out there. And then on this side over here, not only are there Carnival Stations, but along the back, like up on not the bar, I don't know, whatever you would call it. Back there are just giveaways. When we cleaned out the office, we have just bins of things that y'all can take as prizes, get rid of it. We're probably going to toss it. There's little medals and crosses and all sorts of cute stuff. You may have picked up a piece of paper that was folded and has finance stuff on it. I'm going to talk to y'all about that later. If you didn't get a chance to pick it up, that's back there as well. So we're going to show y'all the intro video for the curriculum.
Ahoy, mateys! Welcome above the stewardship. Get it? Stewardship? Yeah, I didn't think so. This month, we're talking all about stewardship. It's kind of a big adult word, but I didn't even know what it meant, so I had to look it up. Stewardship means taking care of what God has given you. And our verse comes from Luke 16:10. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And our C3 wrap this month, are you ready? Noah built a giant ark so that he could prepare. God gives me chances all the time to show how much I care. Before we get started, we need some brave volunteers who are willing to get wet today.
Okay, come on up. Okay, so we did this game a couple years ago, so it might look familiar. So the people who are willing to get wet need to put goggles on, and you're going to be holding this above your head. And then the water shooters are going to be over here. So one thing, when I went to visit Trit did a brilliant job. They did a really cool thing for their game, and this might not work for everyone, but I think it's a great suggestion. So their large group was over here, and when they had their game was set up in the back of the room, and they just asked the kids to turn around, which I think is brilliant, because then they weren't trying to clean up while the Bible story was getting started. So that's one idea. Okay, so this is how it's going to work. Sure. Okay, that works. Okay, so Lindsay's going to play some music. Music is a great way to add excitement for kids. And we're gonna give them a time. Instead of asking them to fill it up a certain amount, which they might not be able to do, we're going to give them like maybe 15 or 20 seconds and see which person can get the most water in their bottle. Okay? So you guys need to act like elementary school kids and cheer them on wildly. Are you ready? On your mark. Get set. Go! thinking Team Lindsay and Jennifer.
I just want to tell you how incredibly blessed Rise Up is to have Casey Darnell join us. Casey has a 5th grader and a kindergartner at Sweet Apple, and so as soon as we heard that he had children in Rise Up, poor guy, we just attacked him. We're like, okay, Casey, you are so talented. He leads worship at North Point. For any of you who might not know who he is. And so Jenny Kruger and I sat down with him at a coffee shop and probably had one of the best conversations I've ever had. He is so smart, so witty. And in that time, we asked him tons of questions. And we're like, oh, and by the way, do you mind if you and your daughter will make some videos for us with motions and lyrics? And thank goodness, the only good thing that came out of Hurricane Irma, I guess, was the fact that he was home with his children, or with his daughter Ava, for 2 days, and they made these 3 amazing videos. So I just really want to recommend to you guys to use these in your meetings, because the kids are just going to love it. So we are going to watch, and if you guys all want to stand up, I mean, we all need a little fun, right? Let's stand up and follow the motions to Your Love Is Like Wow.
So I was thinking about this the other night, and there are a couple of us that have been out looking at different schools and cheering you guys on. And there's one theme that keeps coming up, and it's just going to be the large group tip for the day. So there's such a fine balance between encouraging the kids to shout out and to get excited, while also keeping control. And this is hard. And so, like at Timber Ridge, the kids were wild. They had been in testing and they were bouncing off the walls. So I think one of the things that keeps coming up again and again is when the large group speaker asks the kids a question. You have to be really careful, because if you say, hey, what do you guys want to get for Christmas? You're going to have a million kids shouting out, and then the kindergarten girls are going to talk to each other and say, I really want to get the Barbie. And suddenly conversations are erupting all over the place. So a tip would be, rather than saying, what do you guys want for Christmas? Is to say, I want you guys to think in your mind, and don't say it out loud, but I want you guys to think about what you want for Christmas. And today we're going to talk about what Jesus might want from us. And so I think the less you can have the kids involved in shouting back, I think that's a simple tip. And I think as adults, sometimes we want to filler and we want to engage them. And so we're like, who's excited to be here today? And suddenly it takes 45 seconds to reel them back down. And then they're anticipating, when can I shout out and be psycho again? Because that's how elementary kids are. So that's my large group tip for the day, but here's the large group story for this month.
Hey leaders, we are about to show you the large group Bible story using 2 characters. In the Dropbox is a script for just 1 character. If you don't have 2 dynamic large group speakers, there's options for you, but we want you to watch it with the 2 different characters, because it's Noah and Shem, and they play off each other really, really well, and it's a really fun way to do it. But if that's not an option for your school, we want you to have the script if you just have 1 person.
Hi there, my name is Noah, and I'm here to tell you an important story about how I was given the responsibility to save the whole entire planet, even all the animals that were on the planet.
And I'm Shem, and I'm here to tell you what really happened. You know that story with the cute little animals and the boat on the water? It wasn't like that. It wasn't like that at all.
All right, Shem, I thought you were busy doing another tour around the house.
I'm available all day.
Yeah, I see that. Anyway, can you please try not to interrupt? This is an important story I'm trying to tell them. Anyway, I had spent my whole life trying to take care of things that God had given to me. Well, I had taught my family about God. I was kind to others. I even was kind and helped my neighbors, even though they were really
stinkers. They were real stinkers. Remember that guy who kept taking our trash cans? And the lady who took the figs off Mom's fig tree? And then there was that kid who always let his dog poop in our yard. Remember that?
Shem, I don't think we need all the details. I don't think we need all the details here today. I think they get the picture. But anyway, God could see that the earth was filled with evil. And he decided that he just couldn't let people go on being evil like this anymore, so he gave me a job. Because I had taken care of the things he had given me, and because I had obeyed him, that he gave me the job to build an ark.
Save the world!
Shem, yes, I was given the job to save the world, and so that is what I did. Why, people didn't really understand why I was building this ark, and I could hear the snickers, and when they would drive by and point fingers. But God sent us the animals. 2 by 2 they came to load into the ark.
Dad,
Yeah.
you need to tell them about cleaning up after the animals. You kids, you think you got it rough because you have to take out the kitty litter? Can you imagine what it's like to take out the lion litter? And do you have any idea how much an elephant poops? I do. I know exactly how much an elephant poops. Don't even get me started on the dinosaurs. Remember, Dad? I was like, look at that T-Rex. Just throw him over, Dad. Throw him over. If he makes it, it'll be fine. If not,
Shem, I appreciate all the details that you're adding to the story here. Thank you. Thank you.
important that they know.
But anyway, yes, God did send the animals 2 by 2. And so it was our job to load them onto the ark. We got our family, we loaded them on the ark, and then it started to rain for 40 days.
And 40 nights. Don't forget about the nights. 40 days, 40 nights, non-stop rain, non-stop animal noises, non-stop smells. You think it was the animals, but you also need to know that my brother Ham's feet, Dad, it smells worse than that sheep's backside.
I do remember.
Worse than that sheep's backside. 370 days. I kept the map. 370 days. That's how long we were on that ark. Everybody thinks it's 40 days, Dad, but that's how much it rained. Then we had to wait on everything to dry out. Sitting there in that ark, looking at dead things floating by us. Nothing to do but listen to the animals, clean up poop, listen to J-Pep tell knock-knock jokes. He thinks he's good, Dad. You know he's not. Those knock-knock jokes are not funny, Dad.
Shem, we still need to be kind. We still need to be kind. It was an honor to take care of those animals, the creation that God had given to us. And you're right. When the rain finally stopped and we were able to get out.
Dad.
Yes.
Can I tell him about the rainbow? Can I tell him about the rainbow? There's a rainbow. When
Go ahead.
everything dried out, God sent a rainbow. It filled the sky, and it was God's way of saying that he was proud of us, that we had done a good job with the responsibilities he had given us. Right, Dad?
You're right, Shem. It was indeed beautiful. And it was God's promise to us that he would never again flood the earth. And once we got off, why, we had new things to take care of. We had to build houses for the animals. We had new families to build. We had new crops to plant. And then we also had to prepare the world for God's next phase when he would send his son to save us all. So I built a giant ark so that I could prepare. And God gives us chances all the time to show how much we care.
Okay, so one thing we did for this month, and we noticed when we were going out looking at the different schools, sometimes it's hard for the storyteller. Sometimes it's hard for the storyteller after they've just told this whole story to remember to do the C3 phrase at the end. So for this month, and you can play with it, this is your own, whatever you all would like to do. I think this would be a good month to have another person come on and do the C3 phrase and talk about it a little bit and tie it back to Christ. So that one's on a different video, but if you think that your Noah can go ahead and do it, that's totally fine as well.
I've never taken the time to just stop and think what it would actually be like to live on the ark with Noah and all those animals. Noah's such a good example of what it was like to take care of the things that God had given us. And you know what? There's someone else who did a pretty amazing job taking care of things to show how much he cares. That was Jesus. That was pretty much Jesus' entire life when he was on earth. He was here to show us how much he cared about us. So our C3 breakdown, let's say it again, okay? Noah built a giant ark so that he could prepare. Repeat after me. God gives me chances all the time to show how much I care. We have chances all the time to take care of things like our lunch boxes, water bottles, our pet, our bedrooms, making our bed in the morning. And so that's a great way that we can show our parents and God how much we care. But there's going to be days when you don't do that at all, that you leave your lunchbox at school, that your room is a mess, that you don't make your bed, that you don't take care of the things that God's entrusted you with. But the beautiful thing about God is that you can always go to him and apologize and say, I'm so sorry I've done a lousy job. And he's always there to welcome you with big open arms and say, that's okay, let's try this again together. Thanks. So for small group this month, we have 3 different options again. We got great feedback from September on how wonderful it was to have those different options. So the first option is the questions that you'll find in Dropbox. Kids love talking, especially when their hands are fiddling and doing other things. The second option we have that's a little bit more active and engaging is giving the kids a huge pile of popsicle sticks and asking them to build something. Ask them to build an ark, a boat, they can even build a building. It doesn't really matter what they build, it's just a great way for them to engage. But while they're building, ask them questions. Talk to them about what they think it would be like to live on the ark for that long. So popsicle sticks, you can also buy the kind that have the little grooved edges. Those are really good to help connect them a little bit better. And then the third option that we offer every month is a coloring page of the C3 wrap. This is great also. Put some crayons out, some markers, but talk to the kids about the Bible story while they're coloring.
Hi guys, this month we're going to be talking about the value of stewardship. To help demonstrate that value, we're going to be doing the Bible story of Noah and Noah's Ark. So for the carnival themes, we really wanted to focus on rainbows, anything that had to do with boats, potentially some animals. So you've got a lot of different options that you can work with, and we've given you a lot to choose from. So let's go ahead and get started. From the transformation perspective, like I mentioned, you can go with animal masks, or you could just go with a rainbow focus, whether that's with face paint, or there's actually a rainbow mask template in the Dropbox that you can use. We also have given you an option for tattoos and or animal paper masks, and or you could even use, let me show you, some large construction sheet paper to make sailor masks as well, or sorry, sailor hats as well. So that's something that you might want to consider. And if you go with the 8.5 by 11 sheet, actually they're pretty small, but the cool thing about these is you could tape the top of them, you could tape the top of it, of the mask, and it becomes a boat. And so really easy to do, even for the little ones. The instructions are in Dropbox as well, so take a look at that, and hopefully you can pick one of several options to help with transformation, whether it's face painting, the masks, and or the sailor hats. So moving on to your activity stations, we have a ton to choose from as well. So you can see over here on the table, there is a pseudo bowling alley that, again, connected to a water theme. You can use this to roll down the aisle or the lane and drop some of those water bottles. Obviously, they need to either be halfway empty or all the way empty. We also have a parachute that you can reserve, as well as several different planks over here, which are fun to do for relays, getting them from point A to point B. Several of them can get on the planks, and they have to figure out how to work together to make that happen. And then, of course, we have our crafts for this year. Oh, actually, let me go back to the activity station really quickly. We also have our elephant walk, which is something we've done in the past. We also did the planks in the past, and because they were such a big hit, we want to be able to try and bring them back for this year. So the elephant walk is just some pantyhose on top of somebody's head with a tennis ball stuck at the bottom of the pantyhose, and they walk and try and knock as many water bottles as they can within a minute's time. So it's a minute to win it game. Again, another big hit. So going on to crafts, we have several different options. I don't know if you all have these, but these are fun little dot markers that you can use, or you can use regular markers, but the dot ones go really well with this template, which is the rainbow. And then, of course, you can get, sorry about that, you can get your Amazon foam stickers and make a rainbow plate using a paper plate that I'm sure you probably have extra, if not a lot of extra, left over from various carnival stations in the past. So that gives you your transformation station, that gives you your activity stations, and then of course you have your craft stations. As far as snacks, lots of great options. You can use Fruit Loops and make rainbows out of the Fruit Loops. You can use Twizzlers and have them make rainbow necklaces. So again, a lot of great options for you to check out. Good luck.
Okay, so we have a couple other announcements. First of all, we have 2 new board members on the Rise Up board. One is a man by the name of Nathan Wade, who's a lawyer and is also, to my knowledge, a judge. And so he's brought some great insight. And then most recently, Billy Phoenix, the campus pastor at Buckhead Church, has joined the board, which is really exciting. He and his wife had done a parenting conference for us a couple years ago. So it's nice to bring them to the team. Our finance team has come up with an incredible formula, I don't know how, and discovered the amount that it costs for a child to go through Rise Up as far as your spending at your school versus how much y'all need to raise per school. And so I know fundraising is a really exciting topic for y'all, and you're not going to break out in hives or anything like that. But that sheet that you all may have received outside, if not, you guys can grab it, has a couple things that I would love to explain to you on it. The first is it has your school name. The second is your current chapter size. That's how many kids as of yesterday you have enrolled in your school. That number most likely is going to go up, so don't freak out, okay? Then underneath that is the size budgeted for the kids, for your school. So based on your last year's number is the number that they used. So some of the new schools have already gone beyond the amount that we budgeted for you. So it's your responsibility, I would wait a month or two till the number settles down, to email Kimberly Kramer, who's finances at riseupforchrist.com, and let her know that your numbers have gone beyond what you're currently receiving, as well as if they're a lot lower. For example, Murdoch ended last year with 220 kids. Right now, they're at like 140. So they're going to wait a month or two, see what that number settles at, and then they're going to let them know you're actually budgeting us for 220 kids. Now, it seems like, yes, that's awesome. They're receiving more money. But also part of that formula is how much they need to raise for their school. So underneath this, the next line is the amount raised to date. This is how much money your school has already brought in through registration. Okay? Underneath that line, and this might get a little confusing, so if I lose you, come ask me afterwards and I can help. Some schools have donors who donate every single month. Those monthly donors are not entered into the same database as our one-time donors. So let's say Timber Ridge, for example, maybe we've raised $1,000 this year. We might have people who give a total of $200 a month. So if you go 200 times 12, you can see that we're also going to bring in $2,400. So we can add those two numbers together. Does that make sense? Did I lose you? Yes, are you good? Can you all give me a thumbs up? Okay, good. And then the last line is your fundraising target for 2017, 2018. As of today, we already have 6 schools who have already met that. So that formula of how much we want you to bring in is not only based on the amount of kids you have enrolled, but is also based on how many years you've been in existence. So if it's your first year, your fundraising goal is going to be a lot lower than your second year. Because we know through experience through the last 5 years that the more people you have, the longer your school's been in existence, the more families are going to get on board and get excited. One question we get all the time, which is a great question. If somebody from Timber Ridge writes a check for $10,000, why doesn't Timber Ridge get the $10,000 to go spend? Well, after a ton of prayer, we want to have a kingdom vision, and we want Rise Up to look the same across all the schools. So Timber Ridge, because it was the founding school, I think for the first 3 years it was in existence, supported all the other chapters. And that's our pleasure, that's what we want. And so it's really neat that older schools can help sustain and get new schools going. So feel free to come talk to me about that, and I can get into a little more detail. You love numbers. Our total budget for this year is $220,000. If every school were to raise the amount that we're asking you to raise, that would only cover 30% of our finances. So you guys aren't sustaining the ministry. The number that we're asking you to bring in isn't even sustaining half of the ministry. That's my job, to go out and to raise money and to get grants, and that's part of the board's job, is to go out and bring in extra money. So please know that we're not putting this pressure on you to sustain the ministry. That's something that we do primarily. And there's a ton of costs if you don't know, like volunteer background checks and insurance and website. And there's a lot of costs that aren't super exciting, but are really necessary. So that's where the money comes from. So a couple like really simple tips that I need all of you guys to know for the fundraising team. Number one, somebody on your team, the finance person, has to know your login and password for the Wells Fargo account. We've had schools who come to us and they're like, we're out of money. We're like, have you gone online and looked? Or the bank will alert us. They have no idea they're out of money. You really need to go on and be aware of how much you're spending each month. So somebody on your team needs to do that. The second thing is every month you're going to turn in an expense log to finances. The regional liaisons we're going to reach out and remind you to do that. But it's really, really, really important that you do that. So if you're turning in your expense logs and you come to us and you say, you know what, we're out of money and it's March and we really want to have pizza for the 5th grade ambassadors. If you're turning in your expense logs and you're showing us that you're financially responsible, we would love to help you all out. This is not a stubborn, we're totally open-minded. But if you haven't turned in your expense logs and you don't know your login, we're not going to give you money because it just shows poor stewardship, which is our virtue for the month. And then one other thing, and this comes from such a great place. There are so many schools, and I've done this myself. I'm at Target buying stuff for my family, and I'm like, let me just grab the Carnival Stations supplies, and my family will pay for it, it's fine. That's amazing, and we love your generosity. But we would love to ask you guys, anytime you're donating something, to get that amount and turn it into whoever is doing your expense log. There's a line on the expense log that says donated goods. And what happens if you don't do that? We have no idea how much it's actually costing to run the chapter at your school. So if you have someone that's incredible at Carnival Stations and goes above and beyond and they're just donating it, when that person leaves, you'll never be able to replicate it. So it's actually really helpful for the finance team to know how much is being spent at your school. So thank you for your generosity. We encourage you to be generous, but please, if you can report it, it's really helpful. The last thing, if you have any other questions, you can ask your regional liaison. And then finally, I know that Sarah Martin had put something on Facebook. I know fundraising can be daunting. We'll help you all out. We'll come alongside you guys. There's a ton of different things you could do of Spirit Night or, just telling your volunteers like, hey, we run off the donations. Click here to donate. But Sarah Martin had talked about doing an event with Glory House. And if your school wants to participate in that, all you need to do is just provide a couple volunteers to run it, but we can sell stuff online. The ministry team will push that event out to everybody in the ministry. So if your school wants to show up, she's willing to split the proceeds with you all. So if you're looking for a great event, that would be one. That's all I have. I'd love to close this in prayer and then answer questions, okay? Heavenly Father, we come before you, and I just want to thank you so much for all the people that took the time to get here today, to drive here in the chaos of life. And I pray that they can just leave here refreshed and renewed and encouraged. And I pray that they can feel the fruits of their labor this month, whether they just finished their meeting or if they're getting ready to still have their first meeting. I pray, Lord, that you would just invade them with joy and peace and excitement for serving you, because serving you is such a joy and such an honor. Protect our families. Please be with that family at Roswell High School. And we just trust you with our children, with our lives, and thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to serve you. In Christ's name, amen. Okay, are there any questions? Yeah.
What about what we saw?
Yeah.
Was that on the curriculum link?
Yep. All the videos are in October. If you click on October, you'll see Lindsay's AD presentation. Or there's videos, curriculum videos.
And then this whole meeting will be on YouTube, but if you wanted to specifically go and look for those videos, I will add those to YouTube as well. It'll be one big long meeting video, but if you wanted to just click, you can go find those under October, under Lindsay's videos.
Lindsay, okay. I couldn't find it because I didn't realize.
How do we find it? Can you, sorry, how do we find the YouTube link for people that work here?
The YouTube, once I'm finished with it takes me a little bit of time, like I'll have it by the end of the week usually, but I put it out on the leader forum.
Okay.
So if you ever are looking for it, just search my name. It's Landsay or Trotty. You won't find any more of those. Because we keep it private, because we don't want everybody to be able to use our curriculum. So you have to have the link, and that is posted on the leader forum.
Estelle.
Just real quick, the money that, the $5 that the ambassadors give for their t-shirts, their volunteer, their leader shirts.
Volunteer t-shirts, is that what you're asking about?
Yes.
So it's a suggested donation of $10.
Right. I'm sorry, yeah, for the ambassadors.
Oh, ambassadors, yes. So ambassadors will receive a kid t-shirt, and then if your school wants the ambassadors to wear the adult t-shirt, it's $5.
Now, does that go towards our fundraising, or does that just go to Rise Up for?
That goes towards merchandise. It just covers the t-shirts are actually $7, so we're giving them a discount. Yeah, that's a good question. It's a good question. What else? And can y'all make sure you're reminding your volunteers that it's a suggested donation, because I think we've ordered over 1,000, and they are flying off the shelves.
On the volunteer t-shirt thing, so this year, it was my understanding that y'all didn't really want them to give us checks, so that we're not giving you checks in cash. So what has happened too, like the Chick-fil-A night, adults that I knew were gonna volunteer took a shirt. I just need to revisit and make sure that they go back and do that. But is that still true? Would you really prefer?
It would be ideal if they wrote a check or did it online. Online is ideal, right, Lindsay?
They can do a check too.
They can take the t-shirt and go online and pay $10.
Or they can write a check.
Or they can write a check. What we're trying to avoid is cash. Receiving cash is really hard to track when it
I
comes
thought
in.
we're not supposed to take a check either, so that's helpful.
You can take a check.
Okay, just have them write the school name and their,
And write it
what
up.
it is.
Yeah.
Any other questions? No? Okay, go forth. Have fun. Take the supplies. Take all the extra stuff. There's also extra Bibles out there as well.